In May 2020, in the early months of the pandemic, Airbnb laid off 1,900 employees, a quarter of its workforce. In his comments on the layoff, CEO Brian Chesky explained that Airbnb's business had been hit hard and the company was forced to cut costs.
It was incredibly intense. It felt like everything was breaking at once.
He also mentioned that the company had to face two hard truths. 1, we don't know exactly when travel will return. 2, when travel does return, it will look different. 2 years later, we're finally experiencing the change Chesky cautioned about. But despite the biggest fears, the vacation rental industry is coming out on top. Travel does look different today, but it's different in favor of the short-term rental market, which surpassed even its 2019 occupation levels. How exactly is alternative lodging different from traditional hotels, and why has it become the driving force in a revolution in travel?
This is ridiculous. $15 a day for the internet? $10 a day to use the gym. A $5 incoming call charge? We didn't even answer the phone when it rang.
Well, that's why we had to charge you a voicemail fee.
If you don't recognize this scene from any of the National Lampoon's vacation films, don't fret. This is a 14-minute short that was broadcasted as a series of ads during 2010's Super Bowl. Here, the beloved characters played by Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo are trying to enjoy their stay at a high-end hotel. In the final scenes, they're escaping the hellish experience and visiting their son in a rental beach house. What was the film advertising? HomeAway, vacation rental marketplace that now exists under the brand of Vrbo. Around a decade ago, hotels were starting to lose their appeal. Airbnb launched in 2007, sporting the tagline, "Forget hotels." Couchsurfing grew rapidly, hitting 3 million users in 2011. Then, in 2015, Expedia bought HomeAway for a whopping $3.9 billion, calling the acquisition a logical next step. And nobody batted an eye when Airbnb boasted an over 2 million room inventory, bigger than Hilton, Marriott, and Intercontinental combined. Today, the market of so-called alternative accommodation is growing and getting more diverse. We have vacation rentals, furnished properties that people book for, you guessed it, vacations. Often managed by outside property management firms, these stays represent a more traditional way the business is done. There are also short-term rentals in general, used by tourists and business people. They can range from separate rooms to whole houses, and it's common for homeowners to share the homes they normally live in. Both of these categories fall under the umbrella of alternative stays, basically anything that's not a hotel room. But how does this industry grow to become a threat to hotels? For centuries, hotels were staple parts of the travel experience, from inns and bed and breakfasts to resorts with luxe suites. If you had nowhere to stay in a new city, you'd reserve a room per your budget. That was the standard, but not the only way. The concept of timeshares, when several families invest in a vacation home and share it during different seasons, dates back to the 19th century. If you were the sole lucky owner of such property, you'd also be looking for ways to capitalize on it when it was vacant. Through word of mouth, newspaper ads, and later, Craigslist, homeowners were welcoming travelers to their lake houses, villas, and bungalows, until Airbnb changed the game. In our previous video, we talk in detail about how and why Airbnb came to be, so we highly recommend you watch it. But why did Airbnb succeed so much, and how was it different from, say, Vrbo, that existed since 1995? There are a few reasons. The first thing to point out are millennials. To quote the meme, millennials killed the old way to travel, longing for more unusual destinations and authentic local experiences. They were also more frugal and knew how to hunt for a better deal online. Since rental homes are typically cheaper and more special than standard hotel rooms, they posed an obvious attraction to young adults. Sharing economy introduced a new philosophy that millennials gladly latched onto. The second reason was the growing supply. Since short-term rentals are usually more profitable than long-term leases, homeowners had a chance to turn a side hustle into a significant form of income, thus contributing to the growing inventories on vacation rental platforms. And third was, of course, the technology. As a convenient online platform, Airbnb was a massive improvement from Craigslist, making it easy to find and book an alternative property. Not just an expensive lake house, but also a downtown apartment. Okay, the appeal of alternative lodging for some groups of travelers is clear, but can its demands be compared to powerful hotel brands? Indeed, it can. In the last pre-pandemic year, 2019, Airbnb grabbed 11% of the US lodging revenue. Vrbo captured 7%. So 18% of the whole accommodation market belonged to those two websites. But in 2020, evidently the hardest year travel experienced in a long time, Airbnb and Vrbo captured 18 and 11% of the market respectively, or 29% between them. Clearly, they're not so alternative anymore. Certainly not today. The pre-global lockdown traveler and the post-global lockdown traveler are two different beasts. We can pinpoint two big changes in traveler behavior caused by the pandemic. First is what Airbnb's head of policy and communications, Chris Lehane, calls the great untethering. Remote work, in his words, might transform travel more than the advent of steam trains or commercial flight did. The acceptance of and ability to work from anywhere in the world, plus the increased wanderlust after long months in the lockdown, resulted in the workation trend. During workations, people travel more and for longer periods of time. Data supports that. Chesky says that 20% of nights booked on Airbnb now are for 28 days or longer, and half of all the stays are for a week or more. The type of stay matters more than ever. People take their families, including pets, with them, so they need more space and workplace amenities to be content. A separate room, great Wi-Fi, comfortable chair and desk. These are not the things you usually find in a hotel room. So, workationers turn to rentals for comfort and homey atmosphere. The second major change is in the meaning of business travel. Now that we know that you don't need to sit in the same conference room to negotiate a deal or work in a team, it doesn't make sense to waste money on a 2-day trip. But it opens an opportunity for a different kind of travel that can be called a great reconnection. One-week retreats in unique destinations for whole crews are becoming popular. People in distributed teams get to work and relax together, building stronger connections impossible to achieve without sharing an office. In lieu of these changes, Airbnb introduced over 100 upgrades for hosts and guests. And they're not the only ones reacting to the trend. Hotels are trying to keep up too. Try to guess. Is this a hotel or a rental property you're seeing? Yes, it was a trick question. They are none and both. Technically, these are villas, apartments, and homes, but they're operated by hospitality giants, Marriott and Accor, which launched their own vacation rental platforms. And when the workation trend came knocking, they've also been fast to acknowledge it with their own workspitality propositions. But this is not the only way hotels go head-to-head with short-term rentals. Many are fighting to level the playing field by other means, namely drawing attention to vacation rental controversies. In 2017, the New York Times published an article uncovering the internal document created by the American Hotel and Lodging Association. AHLA, whose members include Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt, took responsibility for lobbying against short-term rentals and platforms where they're posted, urging local governments to restrict their growth. New York City, San Francisco, Las Vegas, and New Orleans are some of the U.S. cities that put limitations and prohibitions on the use of short-term rentals. Why? A few reasons. Travelers are often associated with noise and litter, so the abundance of them in a particular neighborhood is believed to compromise the comfort and safety of permanent residents. Also, short-term rentals are alleged to distort the housing market. When a lot of properties are removed from the rental market and get listed on Airbnb, permanent residents have fewer housing options, and the rent for available properties increases. Finally, historic neighborhoods with a lot of short-term rentals may lose their charm and character and risk being transformed into dormitories for tourists. Yet, this is not so black and white. Most of the negativity is directed towards illegal lodging when homeowners operate without a license and don't follow local laws. Besides, the vacation rental industry also has a positive impact on communities. Thanks to Airbnb and similar services, tourism is booming, welcoming more people who stay for longer and spend more too. When travelers stay in different parts of the city, not just the hotel districts, they're strengthening local businesses. Besides, over 80% of Airbnb hosts share homes in which they live, not homes that are strictly rentals. And the rental revenues help hosts stay in their homes, fostering neighborhood stability. The sharing economy is not ideal, of course, but it's only because we're still building the regulatory systems that will make it sustainable. In 2020, vacation rentals allowed people to feel safe and at ease when traveling. Today, they make it possible to create a home in any part of the world without jeopardizing careers and family life. For other travel businesses, this new reality presents more opportunities for investing in vacation and short-term rentals to capture the traveler of a new era. Let us know what you think. Will short-term renters ever prevail over hotels? And should they? Maybe the traditional hospitality market should stay dominant. See you next time.